Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, the High Guy Jacobs, and today we're taking a look at hero pairings. What does it mean to make a line? What does it mean to synergize your troops together and your heroes together, all that kind of stuff, and truth be told, what it takes to make a good line in the field, garrison, or rally. We will also include some other maybe odd pairings that seem to work really well for other purposes, with maybe some mixed leaders, things like that, mixed heroes. Obviously, it doesn't really deal much with mixed troops. You're not going to find many mixed troop marches, but you might find some with, let's say, an infantry hero, an infantry leading hero, and a ranged support hero, which you might see some of those as well. So we'll go over a couple of kind of interesting pairings that I've heard of that have been working and have some reasons why they work. And obviously, we'll talk about some garrison lines, some rally lines, things like that. But first and foremost, we need to talk a little bit about the hero placement itself, the hero placement within a march, okay? So inside of a march, you've got the leader position as well as the co-lead position, right? If we go create a squad, you've got your leader position here, your main position, and you've got your co-lead. To let you guys understand a little bit about this, the leader brings his skills and brings his talent tree and brings his armaments and brings the beast. The support hero only brings their skills. It does not bring their talent tree, does not bring their armaments, or does not bring anything else. So number one, you do not need armaments on your support heroes. You don't need to worry about the talent tree of your support heroes. All that you're using the support hero for is their skills tree here at the bottom. Okay? So let's understand that first and foremost. Which means, as you'll see here, if I was to look at my main march, I've got armaments on Boyd, and the only armaments I have on Ethan are the armaments that I have for ranged, because he's my best ranged hero. But if I look at any of my other ones, for example, I've got armaments on Bodala, but I do not have armaments on Eileen. If I was to go ahead and switch that, you will see we have no armaments on Eileen. Even though, like I said, Bodala's got the armaments and he's leading, she doesn't need those. She's only bringing her skills. Okay, so this is the first thing we need to determine who is going to be leading and what type of march are we looking at. If we're fighting in the field, if we're fighting in rallies, or if we're fighting in garrison. So let's say hypothetically we're just looking for a field fighting march. Okay, what we want to then address is looking into our hero section and determining which of our heroes that we have selected or we have within our category are good for the field. For example, you'll see Boyd Warden. He's got three different talent trees. He's got the skills tree, he's got the garrison tree, and he's got the infantry squad tree. Depending on how you have him leveled up will determine what you're able to do with him. As you'll see, I have mine done more for garrison. We've got the skills tree, so we're building up rage, being able to deal skill damage, and then we've got garrison tree here to be able to benefit when garrisoning. For example, reducing all damage by 8% when flanked, getting additional rage when attacked, increasing attack and defense when garrisoning, all these types of things. We can get some extra bonus while garrisoning. Would I use him to lead in the field? Probably not without changing his hero lines first. I would lead more out of the garrison tree, more into the infantry tree if I was looking to fight with him in the field. But this again determines what you're doing. So I'm going to look at Bodala, who's my next leading hero, and let's take a look at what his talent tree does. We've got skills, perfect for field fighting. We've got the infantry side, perfect for field fighting. And we've got the general side, perfect for nothing. So knowing that, Bodala becomes our leader in the field. And this is the first one that we can address, okay? So we're going to look at his skills and kind of address and think about how he's going to work as a leader, okay? So first things first, he's going to trigger his skill, which is going to give us a shield. When its shield vanishes, deals 50% of the shield value as true damage, which means it's not being affected by defense. It's basically just flat damage. Okay, and we're dealing at least 15% of the max shield value as damage. So we're always going to be getting at least a little bit of a punch in the face with his skill after creating that shield. Next, we're going to get, when not garrison, we're going to get an increased HP by 11, defense by 32, and travel speed by 20%. So when not garrison, this means when he's in the field or in a rally, hence why he works well in a rally as well. You've got Karma Cutting, where you're going to have counterattacks, removing 9 rage from the enemy and having 20% chance to deal additional damage to the enemy. Great for the field. Another one where we're going to increase the squad attack by 34%. When the shield is active, reduces damage taken by 6.5%. Again, making him tanky, great for in the field. And then once we have him awakened, we're getting this extra benefit here where we're getting it up to 3 targets. 3 targets in here instead of the 2. And a higher value on his shield. Okay, so, but here's the thing. You're going to ask yourself, well, why would I want to lead with him? Why wouldn't I want to make him as a co-lead? And it literally comes down to this skills tree. Because we're looking at the skills tree, which is providing a ridiculous amount of rage overall in regards to, boosts to rage, boosts to the damage of skills, things like that. But you also have this one here, skillful firepower. And this node here is going to increase the skill damage by 7.5% for 6 seconds after using a skill. And once you understand how battle works, you'll realize that Bodala will trigger his skill, which will trigger the 7.5% bonus for the next skill trigger. So if I lead Bodala and have Eileen as his secondary, which I do, we're going to get an extra 17.5 or 7.5% on top of her skill damage. And her skill damage is far more than his. Okay? Now, here's the other truth. I don't even know if this is considered skill damage or not because it's considered true damage. So I don't know if it's considered skill damage, if it gets the buff or not, because I don't think it will because it's based on their shield. So it doesn't make sense to me to co-lead with Bodala. You want him leading to benefit that 7.5% to the next skill damage, which is Eileen Volt's main skill damage here. Okay? So we can see why leading with that, once you're looking at that skill tree, that additional 7.5% is very effective. This is also why you might lead Bodala Stella, depending on what your Stella tree looks like, if you got some in Siege or not, right? You might lead Bodala Stella on rallies to benefit Stella's damage from the extra 7.5%, right? That might be one of your things. So again, it depends on how you run those heroes, how you have them talented, and how you plan to use them, okay? But this is why you always have to ask yourself, Garrison? Am I in Garrison? Am I in Rally? Or am I in Field? Okay? So, once we understand that, once we realize we're going to put a Field in there, we can look at our available heroes for that March, and just like we've talked about, look at their skill tree, their talent trees, pardon me. Okay? If they've got the skills tree, they're going to include that 7.5%. If they've got the attack tree, like Rick does, let's take a look at what the attack tree provides. Okay, we get a little bit of rage here. We get some counter damage here. We get some squad basic attack damage here. Not much that's going to do much for skills themselves, but we do get some rage recovery here, some more rage recovery here, and then some increase to basic attack damage and stuff like that. So the attack tree is going to do more for attack, defense, things like that. Basic attack and counter, whereas skill damage or the skill tree will provide you more skill damage, more rage regeneration, and things like that. So again, it depends on what your hero does. If you're in a Rick position where his skill isn't necessarily, it's not a all at once, it's his damage over the next 5 seconds, having the skill tree might not necessarily be nearly as beneficial because typically with skill trees, you're getting the benefit, like I said, with that 7.5% over the next 6 seconds, right? So it's one of those things where it's kind of going to blast once and move on from there. So it's depending on the hero itself and depending on how those heroes activate, which is also why it's getting a little bit different if you're looking at infantry heroes versus rider heroes versus range and things like that, right? Because they all have different influences, what's going to influence them the most. But once you understand the heroes that you're going to be looking at or the hero that you're going to be leading with, next you want to look at heroes that have synergy with him, okay, or with them or what have you. For example, if I was leading with Boyd, and if let's say I was doing Garrison, right? We know that Boyd does a lot of shields. He works on Garrison, and one of his really good synergistic heroes is Riven, because Riven provides a bonus shield percentage. It adds a 30% bonus to the obtained shield, which is going to synergize really well with Boyd's shield, especially when he deals damage on that shield. So you can start to see how he synergizes very well. So we want to see some kind of synergy. One of these things that we're looking for is whether the hero is a tanky hero or what you'd consider a glass cannon. Lots of damage, no defense. Which is why I paired Bodala and Eileen. Eileen is super glass cannon. You look throughout her kit and she's got almost no kind of defense, almost no kind of damage reduction, none of that kind of stuff. The little bit that she does have, right? She's got a little bit. 10% infantry squad damage. Oh no, that's not damage reduction. That's infantry squad damage. Reducing counter damage right here. So we reduce counter damage received, a little bit of that. But that's about it. There's really no kind of defense in her kit. She's what you consider a glass cannon. Bodala, on the other hand, provides a lot of defense. He's got his shield, which provides defense. He's got increase in defense and HP over here. He's got a reduction in overall damage when the shield is active. So he's got a lot of tank. So if we add Bodala with Eileen, you've got defense coming from Bodala, which sets up Eileen's damage to do more with the 7.5%. So they pair really well together. Some other synergies that you might find, someone like Adut and Miyamoto. Okay, Adut and Miyamoto for a long time had a lot of have good synergy, work really well together, simply because typically what you're talking about with Adut, a little bit of defense coming here, a little bit of flat damage, a lot of squad attack, a lot of damage, infantry squad travel speed, and more damage, more attack, more damage. A little bit of increase in defense, but it's a lot of damage, whereas Miyamoto is going to be a little bit tankier. He's got a damage taken by, or a decent AoE. He's got some reduction here to reduce enemies' HP, sorry. So you've got a reduction in HP. You've got some more damage, some more travel speed, some increase in defense. So Adut provides attack. He provides defense. They both provide movement speed. And they both deal a decent amount of damage together. So there's some synergy with them. Now, again, you'd ask me who would I lead with? Who would I co-lead? And again, it's going to depend on your talent tree. If you have them talented the same, it's not going to really matter. What really just is going to determine is the skillful firepower. If you lead with Adut, Miyamoto's skill is his AoE will have more damage. If you lead with AoE, or if you lead with Miyamoto, Adut's main damage will have more. So she'll deal more damage to one individual target. So, in my opinion, leading with Adut and having Miyamoto as your co-lead is better to give more of that to the splash damage, the AoE damage that you want to benefit. Okay? So, this is all kind of the basis for how we want to prep these lines up, right? We're going to look at the heroes that we have, look at how they synergize, look at what they're good at, and let's not try to do things with heroes that they're not good at. For example, Stella's not great in the field. I don't fight with her in the field. She's not within my main lines. Okay? Yes, she's got damage. Yes, she's got counter damage. Yes, she's got war will stacks, things like that. But the truth is, most of what you're talking about happens when she's either in a rally or you know, where you're getting this bonus war will stacks, the bonus damage from that. Or you're not getting any of the squad counter damage or any of the HP on her third skill unless you have her transcended. And then even when you have her transcended, it's like, yes, she does okay, but there's other heroes that do much better within those roles. So I would never try to force a hero to do something that they're not really good at. Okay, so again, this is also coming down to the understanding what the heroes do. But now, once we have synergy with those heroes, with, let's say, Bodala and Eileen, we're going to check those talent trees, like we talked about, to decide where they go inside that lineup. If they've got the skills talent tree and you're going to benefit from skillful firepower, then obviously you're going to be leading with Bodala and having Eileen as secondary. If you're going to be leading with Adut, like I said, over Miyamoto, because of that skillful firepower, we want to be cognizant and aware. If you're looking at something like Chasey Rick, right, where you have Chasey who's got the skills talent tree and Rick who has the attack talent tree. Well, a lot of that is going to depend, If I look at Chasey, right, she's not doing any skill damage, so it wouldn't make any sense for me to have Rick leading. It wouldn't make sense for me to have Rick leading because he doesn't have, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. In this situation, having Rick leading versus her leading, the only benefit here is that with hers, you're getting the skills tree, which means you have that 7.5% skill firepower. So if you lead with Chasey and have Rick as a secondary, you're going to benefit Rick's skill damage, right? So you'll benefit the 3,300 by an additional 7.5% with skillful firepower. So leading with Chasey over Rick is, in my opinion, beneficial, though there is some merit because Rick's got the attack tree and Chasey takes advantage of the attack tree inside of her thing, right? Where she's getting your basic attack by, 290%, 330% when transcended, right? I believe it's 330% when transcended. Right, when her level is transcended, is it? Yeah, 330%. And so if you have your increased basic attack, then multiply that by an additional 330, you can see Rick and Chasey doing very, very well in those positions. I would still lead with Chasey just because of the skills tree, the extra 7.5% skillful firepower for Rick. But you might see them going the other way in Garrison and things like that too. I don't have them both, so I couldn't tell you one way or the other. But you do want to have that kind of mentality. Now, you will notice most heroes have the skills tree. Most of the active fighting heroes have skills. Because skills is a huge part of this game. Like we've mentioned, it's like 40 to 50% of the total damage done in a fight. It might be less than that now with beasts, but it used to be like 40 to 50% compared to the battle or basic attack and counter. So knowing that skills do so much, there's a reason why there's a lot of players with the skill tree, a lot of heroes with the skills tree. Okay. However, once we have all that set up, we've decided which heroes we're going to play. We've decided what the march is going to be, and we're looking at what heroes or what talent trees they have. We can now look at putting armaments on, because we want to put armaments only on our leading hero. So we slap armaments on our Bodala. He's now going to be leading at a 4 million, which isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And then we're going to set up the line and we're going to save it. And it's very much simple, where you're just going to create a squad. You're going to pick Bodala as your first, and you're going to pick Eileen as your secondary. You're going to make sure you've got the mass troops, the max amount of troops. You're going to select the proper beast, and then you're going to click save. Okay, you're going to click save, and you're going to save that march. Now, why is this important, and why am I mentioning this? Because the truth is, this game has so many heroes that there is so much nuance. There's so much context on how these players and heroes can be used, but a lot of it still comes down to the same mentality, right? Those same kind of 6 steps, the 6 steps that we've gone through. And it's the same for no matter what you do. So if we want to do a Garrison line, right? As an infantry Garrison main, I'm going to look at my main Garrison heroes. Someone like Boyd, someone like Rygaro. Okay, these are going to be the main heroes that I'm going to be leading with. Okay, and then looking for synergy. Now I have Riven as well. I know that Boyd and Riven go well together. I know that they synergize well together. So I'm going to put them in a march. I'm also going to equip all of my best armaments, all of my superbs and things onto Boyd. So I've got the best set that I have. And I'm going to go ahead and create that march. Now what you're going to see here is that my number 1 march has a couple of things. First thing, I've got Ethan instead of Riven. I'm going to put Riven in for now just to kind of make it more beneficial. I can always switch to Ethan after, but Ethan is one of these hero pairings we're going to be talking about. Number 2, what you're going to notice is that in that march, I only have 400 troops, okay? And there's a reason for that. This is a very big reason. This is my Garrison line, right? So when I reinforce a tower with this Garrison line, okay, I don't have to take this Garrison line out and refresh it. I can leave it in there. And that 400 squads isn't going to take up any of the 1.5 million troops that I need to. So I don't have to worry about swapping this guy out. And now I can add and reinforce with a second march with whichever heroes I have. It doesn't matter. And then that march is the one that I'll be swapping back out and reinforcing and refreshing as I need to, right? So this way my Boyd always stays in there. I don't have to take him out. Even if he's got low troops, 0 troops, for example, we're still benefiting from the heroes being in that tower, okay? So that's kind of why I have it set up that way. But again, the concept is exactly the same. You're going to ask yourself, what type of march am I setting up? What available heroes do I have for that march? What type of synergy can I get between the heroes that I have? What kind of talent trees do they have? How are they going to work together? What kind of armaments do I have? And then putting your line together from there. Yes, beasts are there too, but let's be honest, beasts, you're gonna be working with the best sets of beasts that you have. If you've got a Garrison beast like I do here, because I'm a Garrison main, you're gonna be working on that. If you've got your rally beast, you're gonna be working on that if you're a rally main. If you're fighting in the field, the rest of them really don't matter as much. It really matters less. The only where the beasts matter the most is going to be in your rallies and garrisons, where they matter hugely. But outside of that, you can kind of just make do in the field with the rest. Okay. But let's say, for example, we were looking at a rally. Okay. I wanted to set up a rally. I've got Stella. Stella's a great rally hero. I've got her a little bit transcended. She's a great rally hero. And I've got her hero talent set up with a little bit of rally. Okay. So we've got a reduces counter damage taken. which is obviously, you know, a decent amount of damage. I'm not a huge fan of the siege tree itself. So even if you look at the recommended, for example, the recommended has you pretty much putting it all into the infantry side of things anyways. And the only reason I have a little bit of siege is because I've noticed a little bit of change there. But you'll see that even in that siege tree, there's not a lot of benefit from it. We don't really care about the lookout tower, doesn't really do much. I don't really care about rally speed, that doesn't really do much. The increase in squad and attack is fine, but it's not very much. This increase in all damage dealt by 10% is pretty good. But again, you'd have to take all of your stuff away from skills to put into siege to get anything beneficial from it. So in reality, I'm actually just going to go ahead and do this one here. Get yourself the actual setup that they have here. Whether you use this basic attack damage one or whether you use this attack HP and defense, you know, by a couple percentages, is entirely up to you. But this is kind of the basis of how I would have it done. There'd be a little bit of differences if you wanted to be a little bit special. Like I might take these 6 points out and I might put 4 in here instead and 3 and 2 in here instead. But that's just personal preference. You're talking about 6 points, so it's not a huge deal. But again, I'm going to look at my main hero. I'm going to address who I want to run with her. And I've got a couple of options. So again, depending on what you want to do. If I'm looking to just tank, I might send Eddie, because Eddie does really good in sieges, synergizes really well, has some HP reduction, shielding, and stuff like that for a tank. I could send Bodala, because again, Bodala does really well in this. Very, very tanky, has some good HP, attack, and defense. Or I could even send Marco, and Marco himself is super good inside of rallies. Marco just by himself does decent damage, good rage blocking, good HP reduction, good shielding. And this is all specific to everything, right? So like it all pretty much works inside of it. And Marco by himself is really, really good. So you can kind of pair however you would. But in that situation, right, just like I would, I'm going to make sure I've got my Rally Beast set, make sure I've got my pairing set, make sure I've got the mass amount of troops set, and then I'm just going to go ahead and save that march. Okay? But again, it's the exact same as what you look at with any of these lines. Field, rally, garrison, it doesn't matter. But that's going to wrap it up for how you determine those pairings. What we're going to touch base on now is some interesting pairings that I've seen work really well. And some people that, you know, ones that they've talked about, ones that have used, ones that have worked in the past, ones that still work today, things like that. Now, we could talk about your basic average everyday ones like Bodala, Eileen, Sophie, Ethan, all those ones, Adut, Miyamoto, things like that. But really what I want to talk about is some ones that aren't necessarily the same blood. They're going to be a little bit maybe mixed. So, for example, one of the top lines right now in the field is a Transcended Boyd with a Transcended Isabella. Now, yes, it is running on the fact that Isabella is broken. Right now, her Awakened skill is triggering even when she's not serving as the leader. And even when she's not rallied or garrisoned. So, or when she is rallied or garrisoned, she's still triggering this ability. So she's still broken. But if you have a decent leader set, there's nothing wrong with leading with Isabella and having Boyd as your secondary. Okay? Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It'll do really, really, really well. So something like Boyd Isabella works really well. In Garrison, one of the best garrisons for infantry against multiple swarms or against multiple targets is going to be a Boyd with a Transcended Ethan. And that Transcended Ethan needs a... he needs his 1 Transcended as well as I believe it's his 4. So that you're getting this. You're getting... Once you transcend... Here, let me show you. Right, once we transcend... And I believe it's this one... You're getting the squad defense at 45% out of every troop type, and you're getting a reduction in all damage taken by 15% for 2 minutes, for the first 2 minutes, right? So this squad defense instead of range squad defense is huge, right? So you want that one transcended, and I believe you want this one transcended as well, because you get the heal, you get the gunfire, and then the 4 enemies in a circular area instead of 3 in a fan. So you kind of want those 2, 1 and 4 transcended on Ethan to make him good. But Boyd Ethan is absolutely amazing. It's better than, in my opinion, than Boyd Stella. Even though Boyd Stella is really good at kind of counter swarms. Boyd Stella does really good at counter swarms, whereas Boyd Ethan does really good at counter multiple rallies. Now you're going to ask me what's the difference. Very simple. A rally is going to be taking on more damage like more skill damage and pumping out more skill damage, because a lot of that skill damage is going to be based on the amount of troops in the calculation. So he's going to be punching out those that AoE skill damage to those 3 targets that are coming in. Whereas if you're being swarmed, you could be swarmed by, I believe, 10 different targets, and he can't pump out 10. He's not pumping out skill to 10 targets. He's only pumping it out to 4 when he's transcended, or 3 if he's not. But Stella increases the counter damage by such a drastic amount that you're basically increasing the counter damage to everybody that's hitting her, which is up to the 10 targets, which makes her a little bit better on the swarm protection. So Boyd Stella works, Boyd Ethan works, Boyd Riven. And Boyd Riven is still absolutely the best single target Garrison probably in the game, at least for infantry. Boyd Riven is fantastic. But like I said, Boyd Ethan, Boyd Stella all work really well as well. Now, some of the other ones that you might see here, obviously we're going to talk a little bit about Claude as a leader. Claude can kind of go in any march. He's got a lot of freedom. So you're going to see things like Eddie Claude is a really good march. It's a really good debuffing march because it debuffs HP and it debuffs attack and skill damage taken and all this kind of stuff. So it's a really good debuffing line. Same with something like Maya, or same with something like, who's the other one? Like a Marco Claude. If you've got Marco as well, Marco Claude is a really good line. And the reason I'm putting Claude in a secondary is just because chances are you're not going to have a leader set for him. He is better in the leadership position because he has, number 1, he's got the cooperation tree. But number 2, it's because, if we look at Claude, his rage skill triggers at 950, not 1,000. So typically he will trigger before your opponents will. Okay, and that's going to reduce their skill damage by 20%. So if you have a leadership set, leading with Claude is a good idea. You can even run something like Isabella Claude is a good one as well. I'm a big fan of Isabella Claude. Even something like a Sophie Isabella would be a good one, right? I mean, Isabella, because they're a leadership, can kind of go with a lot of other ones, can kind of free flow into any of those marches. And obviously she's got different benefits if she's leading specific troops, right? So if she's leading infantry, she's getting that extra damage. If she's leading riders, she's getting that AoE. And if she's leading range, she's getting that increase in damage by 20%. Okay, so there's lots and lots of kind of freedom with that one. But let's talk about some other ones that we talk about that you might see a little bit or in certain areas. In, let's say, Pompeii, for example, you might see them, or you might see them in Off-Limits War, where deaths aren't a problem. You might see something like Thunder Peterson with Lewis. And you're going to ask yourself, why? Lewis is arranged. You're right, but if we look through his skills, you'll see that most of his attributes are not specific to ranged. So, for example, his AoE damage is up to 5 enemy squads in a fan-shaped area is not specific, right? So it's not range squad damage, it's just damage. His secondary one, we're increasing the skill damage by 30%. It's not range skill damage, it's just skill by overall. Yes, we're doing increases the HP of range squads when garrisoning, and we might not have range squads, which is fine because we're still going to be garrisoning with infantry. And yes, of course, this one we're getting some infantry squad attack, but the rage recovery, as well as the skill damage, as well as the skill damage, as well as him transcending and doing more skill damage, you can start to see why he is still kind of beneficial, even if you have his skin that makes it good. And Thunder by himself isn't good in normal fights, but if you put him in off limits, for example, where time is a factor, and it's not about, who can last forever, but you have 30 minutes to take it, well, Thunder can do really well at holding those positions and holding those, like the devices and things like that for the time that he needs to, because he doesn't really care about kills. He just cares about time. So Thunder Lewis works really well. If you're fighting in the field and you might be lacking a little bit of the newer heroes, you can still rely on heroes like Miyamoto and Lewis. Like I mentioned, Lewis is a good hero to kind of put around. Yes, he does need some ranged. Yes, he does work better in range, pardon me. And yes, he does work in Garrison better. But the 30% skill damage increase works on Miyamoto's skill. This overall AoE damage works on Miyamoto's skill. The rage recovery works on Miyamoto's skill. So you can see things like Miyamoto Lewis working really well as well. Okay, it's the same thing. I might see something like Boyd Ethan. In the same breath, I might put something like, let's see, like Tom Ethan. because Tom is going to be able to add a little bit more longevity. Like if I'm struggling in my arena, for example, like if we go to my arena, let me just show you what I've got in my arena. I've got all 5 infantry, but again, it's going to be depending on what we're running with. So I've got Bodala Eileen as my number 1. I'm running Stella Isabella as a number 2. Adut Miyamoto is then there. I've got Boyd Ethan for some more AoE damage, and then I've got Marco Claude as a nice debuffing line, or buffing and debuffing line. Okay, so and you'll see Boyd Ethan works decently well because, of course, in this situation, again, we don't really care about deaths. We care about pumping out damage. Ethan does that pretty well. Same with Adut Miyamoto. Same with Bodala Eileen. So it's some decent AoE coming out of here, and then some decent just hard punching out of here and some debuffing out of there. But that's really what it comes down to, okay? You're just going to simply look at who you have, who has some synergy, who can play the line a little bit, and pair them from there. I know someone, for example, who uses Felix and Spectra. He leads with Spectra because he's a range main. He leads with Spectra and runs Spectra Felix. Okay? And in my head, I'm going, why? Well, we look at Felix. Basic attacks deal more damage. Each basic attack will reduce skill damage. Okay, that's fine. Reduces counter damage taken, so that's fine. Increase all damage dealt by oneself, so that's fine. When taking, increases own squad attack, own squad, so this goes for ranged as well, by 5%, right? So what this basically means is that he's got some playability, performs an additional basic attack. This isn't rage, or this isn't ranged. This is everything. So he actually works there as well. So I've seen Spectra Felix, and he lives by it. He says it works really well, right? So there's tons of options like that. If you're struggling for synergy, I mean, especially now within the riders category, you've got tons. Janet brings a lot of synergy. For example, because of Janet's graffiti, her graffiti state for 5 seconds, she pairs really well with anybody who deals damage over time. So someone like Felix, for example, who deals damage over time. Someone like Rubina, Rick, Elena, even Daryl, right? And these guys that'll trigger it multiple times will benefit from someone like Janet. Okay, so again, yes, it means you have to know the heroes. 100%, you need to know the heroes. That's why I've done all the hero deep dives that I have, so that hopefully you have an understanding on what these heroes do, what they're capable of, what their skills do, and where you can kind of play them. Okay, but that's really all it is. Okay, as we've said, determine what you want to do, whether it's rally, garrison, or field. Determine what heroes you have that can fit within that can play within that have potential within that, right? Look at the skills for synergy between those heroes, okay? Make sure we've got armaments placed on after we decide where they're going to be placed in the line. Then you put armaments on, then you save the line and use it. And take a look at your results, right? If your results are good, continue using it. If it's not, switch it up. I mean, that's the best part about this game. A lot of it is trial and error. Just figure it out while you can, right? And unfortunately, because you're not going to have everything, figure out what best you have and work with that. You're always going to be working with the best that you're going to have. And that's really the hardest part about this game. You're never going to have everything. So work with the best that you have. Okay? But other than that, folks, that's really going to wrap it up for this. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you guys understand a little bit more about hero pairings or what goes into deciding a good hero pairing. And even what goes into testing. Take a look at those reports. Make sure you got good returns on them, right? Dive into those reports. Look at the exchanges. But other than that, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today. So I really hope you guys enjoyed yourself. If you do, smash the like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, fill out the notification bell, all the things that cost you nothing but help immensely. And if you want to help out financially, for $7.99 Canadian, which is like $4 American, you can help out the channel financially. Get yourself some emojis. Get yourself access to content first. Get your name on the ending page of the videos. All that kind of stuff. Get your recognition. Help out the channel just a little bit more. But other than that, folks, love, peace, chicken grease, and until next time, stay lifted.
No such thing as puff.